Imagine this for a second. Imagine you've spent 20 years, an entire career perfecting a skill. You are the absolute best in the world. No one can touch you. And then, almost overnight, a new piece of technology comes along and makes all of that experience, all of that hard work, completely worthless. This isn't some hypothetical business case study. This is exactly what happened in the middle of the Pacific Ocean during World War II. It's the story of how a single invention didn't just change the rules of war, it completely blew them up. And that brings us to the one question that every sailor on every ship in every navy has feared since the beginning of time. How do you fight an enemy you can't see? For one side, this question became a terrifying waking nightmare. For the other, it became the ultimate weapon. To really understand just how radical this shift was, we have to go back to the world before, a world where the night belonged to someone else entirely. All right, let's set the stage. Before 1942, if you were on the water after sunset, you were in the territory of the Imperial Japanese Navy, period. Their mastery of night combat wasn't just some tactic, it was the entire foundation of their naval strategy, and they had spent decades perfecting it. The whole idea was to use the cover of darkness to ambush and absolutely annihilate a bigger, stronger enemy. And you know what? It worked. To really feel the moment this all came crashing down, I want you to come with me to the bridge of the destroyer Amatsukaze. It's November 13th, 1942. You're Commander Tamachihara. You're an expert, one of the best night fighters in the world. Suddenly, out of the pitch-black darkness, the sea around your ship erupts in geysers of water. These aren't wild shots. They are perfectly aimed. They're bracketing you. Your lookouts are desperately scanning the horizon, and they see nothing. No lights, no ships. Just the impossibly precise shells from an enemy that might as well be a ghost. In that one moment, everything Commander Hara and his entire navy thought they knew about fighting at sea became obsolete. So how did they get so good in the first place? Well, their confidence was built on a solid foundation of superior human skill. Japanese lookouts were basically Olympic athletes of vision. They went through this incredibly intense training. Their diets were specially managed, all to optimize their night vision. And the results? They were staggering. On a dark night, a Japanese lookout could spot a ship at 7,000 meters. Their American counterparts, they were lucky to spot something at half that distance. This wasn't just a small advantage, it was a gigantic, battle-winning capability. And this incredible human skill was backed up by the absolute best hardware. They had the world's finest naval binoculars and optics, made by a company called Nippon Kaku. You probably know them today as Nikon. Then they had the Type 93 torpedo, better known as the Long Lance. This thing was an absolute monster. It could hit a target from 24,000 yards away, far, far beyond the range of any American gun or torpedo. The whole system, the trained men, the superior optics, the deadly torpedoes, was just devastating. At the Battle of Savo Island, they proved it by sinking 4 Allied heavy cruisers in about 30 minutes, without losing a single ship. In the dark, they were simply untouchable. But here's the thing. While Japan was busy perfecting the art of seeing with the human eye, this quiet revolution was happening in Allied labs, a completely new way of seeing, one that didn't care about darkness or clouds or how many carrots you'd eaten. It was a way of seeing with radio waves. And the absolute key to this whole revolution was this small, kind of funny-looking device, the cavity magnetron. It was a British invention brought over to the United States in 1940 by something called the Tizard mission. And this little metal box was the breakthrough. It could generate powerful, high-frequency microwaves, which meant you could finally build radar sets that were small enough to fit on a ship, but powerful enough to change the world. One historian called the Tizard mission's cargo the most valuable cargo ever brought to our shores. Looking back, he was absolutely right. So here's how they turned that science into a weapon. They created a system, a kill chain. Step 1. The SG radar picks up a ship from over 15 miles away, long before any human eye could ever hope to see it. Step 2. That information is fed into the Mark 37 gun director, which is basically a giant mechanical computer, and it instantly calculates the enemy's speed and direction. And then, Step 3, the ship's big guns open fire with terrifying accuracy on a target that the gunners can't see at all. Detect, calculate, fire. A simple, brutal process, all done in complete darkness. And this all leads us to the moment of collision. The dark, bloody waters around Guadalcanal, a place nicknamed Iron Bottom Sound for all the ships that sank there. This is where 20 years of Japanese naval doctrine slammed headfirst into this brand new disruptive technology. This is the night the rules of war changed forever. It's just after 1 a.m. On the American cruiser USS Helena, a radar operator sees a group of blips suddenly appear on his green screen. It's the Japanese fleet, 27,000 yards out. For the next 20 agonizing minutes, the Americans just watch. They track the Japanese ships as they sail completely unsuspecting, closer and closer into the trap. The Japanese lookouts see nothing but black ocean. Then, at 1:48 a.m., the night just explodes. Commander Hara is brocketed. A few minutes later, the massive battleship Heiyei is being torn to pieces by shells from an enemy that, as far as her crew knew, might as well have been invisible. 85, that's the number. 85 heavy shells from 5- and 8-inch guns hammered the Heiyei in the dark. She became the first Japanese battleship lost in the war, crippled by a force she could never see. The age of fighting with your eyes was officially over. Now, that night at Guadalcanal wasn't just a lucky shot. It was the first brutal lesson in what was becoming an unwinning numbers game. The technological gap that opened up that night, it wasn't just a gap. It was a canyon, and it was only going to get wider. Just a quick look at the tail of the tape here tells you everything you need to know. The American SG radar was just in a different universe than Japan's best effort, the Type 22. But honestly, forget the power and the accuracy for a minute. Just look at the display. The Japanese A-scope just showed a spike on a line. It could tell you something was out there. The American PPI scope, it was a map. It was a literal bird's-eye view of the entire battle space. It was the difference between hearing a strange noise in the dark and just flicking on the lights. And then you pour gasoline on that fire with this, an overwhelming industrial advantage. So while Japan struggled to build 32 destroyers between 1942 and 1944, the United States built 175. Of just a single class, the Fletchers, and every single one of them came off the production line with the latest radar already installed. It's a brutal reality. America wasn't just building a better mousetrap. They were mass-producing them on a scale their enemy couldn't even imagine. The math was just unwinnable. So you have to ask, why was the gap so huge? Well, in one of history's most staggering twists of irony, it turns out this was an organizational failure too. A critical component in most Allied radar sets was something called the Yagi antenna. It was invented back in 1926 by a Japanese professor, Dr. Hidetsugu Yagi, but his own military had looked at his research and dismissed it as having no practical use. That kind of institutional blindness, mixed with a really toxic rivalry between the Japanese Army and Navy, basically guaranteed they would be caught totally by surprise by a revolution they had actually helped invent. Look, this is an incredible piece of history, no doubt about it. But the real reason we're talking about it today is because the lessons from those dark nights 80 years ago are, frankly, more relevant now than they've ever been. This is a timeless story about disruption, and its echoes are all around us. If you want to see what technological disruption looks like in cold, hard numbers, this is it. Before radar, Japan was winning the night fights. They were sinking 1.4 American ships for every one they lost. The second SG radar shows up on the scene, that ratio flips to nearly 3-1 in America's favor. And by the end of the war, when radar was on everything, it's almost 12-1. That's not just a reversal of fortune, that is a complete and total annihilation, written in data. So what does this all mean for us? What's the takeaway? First, it's a harsh reminder that a leap in technology can make decades of human skill and bravery almost irrelevant. The best lookout in the world can't beat a radar beam. Second, it changed warfare forever. Electronic warfare went from being a weird curiosity to the absolute bedrock of modern military power. But I think the most important lesson, the one that really endures, is a warning against getting complacent. Japan was the best in the world at what they did, but they were so focused on perfecting yesterday's fight that they were completely blind to the revolution that would define tomorrow's. And that brings it all right back to today. Right back to you. The radar revolution was invisible to the very people it was about to destroy. It was developed in secret, in quiet labs, long before anyone felt its impact on a battlefield. Which forces us to ask a pretty uncomfortable question. What is the radar of our time? What invisible shift is happening right now, in a lab, in a garage, on a server somewhere, that's about to make a 20-year advantage in your industry, in your skill, in your entire career, completely irrelevant? What invisible revolution is about to change your world?